Good evening, world. A couple of minutes early, but I thought I'd start a little bit earlier. How's everyone tonight? Welcome to the channel. This is my live Sunday stream. Second one I've done, so I hope you're all welcome. I hope you can hear me. If you can hear me, give me a little bit of thumbs up on the chat if you would, or just let me know in the chat, and we'll take it from there. But really, really good to see everybody online tonight. Currently 14 viewers. Wonderful. I'm even looking myself down on my little iPad at the minute. I'm just going to check the volume. Hang on a sec. Hear me? If you can hear me. That's good, because I know that I can actually hear myself. That's good. So welcome. A few topics to talk about tonight, but if there's any questions you have for me, please stick them in the chat. Really would appreciate it. Something on that. We're going to try for about an hour tonight again, as usual, and we'll see if we can do it. But it seems to be a bit of a G9 sort of night tonight. I've made a list of a few topics which I've started thinking about. And hi, Andreas. How are you? Just seeing the first comment. Good to see you. A few topics that I've been thinking about tonight. Obviously, I've gone through all this rigmarole about the G9 noise, which I'll take you through a few things on that in a few seconds. What's happening to the G9 in the future, the G9 Mark II or the G10. I bought myself a gimbal. Let me know what you think about gimbals. I know a lot of you are still photographers rather than video, but I bought myself a gimbal and I'll tell you about that. And I'm also going to have a little bit of a discussion about large print sizes. So I'm going to be going through that if I can. But yeah, a couple of things on there. So I'm going to kick off tonight and just give you a bit of an update on the G9 situation with the noise. I've cured it. Thank you for everybody who gave me so much help on and so many suggestions on that. It really was useful. What I did to cure it, I put my old electronics head back on again. I used to be an electronics engineer working for the Royal Air Force and working down a component level on electronics. And I tried resetting the camera. The noise was definitely there. I was called all sorts of things as if I was telling lies and things, but I had definite bad noise on the G9, which I'd never really noticed, particularly before this shoot. And yeah, I could have used better lenses and things, but it wasn't really a lens issue. And I went and took my EM1 Mark II and my G9 in, but before I did run G9, I did something which takes me back to electronics days. I did a reset, but I also took the batteries out and left them out long term. They were out for about 18 hours, put them back in again, went and took the photographs, and I did a quick test first, and it pointed that the noise had gone. So what I'm thinking it is a capacitor was holding charge on something, and something wasn't very well inside with how it had been set up, and the noise had gone. And comparison wise, very, very similar between the EM1 Mark II and the G9. I really couldn't tell much at all between them. So that was the first thing on that. Second subject on tonight is the G9 Mark II or the G10. I've noticed online that the G9 has been discontinued in Japan. Well, that's usually an indicator that there's something happening from Panasonic Lumix, if that's the case. And the G9's been discontinued in Japan, according to the rumours sites. I sort of started something of a storm. I put a G9 Mark II or G10 wish list video out a little while ago, and it seems that everybody jumped on the bandwagon and did the same thing, with very similar sort of attitudes on that one. But I really do think that that's imminent. It does say an awful lot when you can't have a G10 easily because you've already had a G10 because it was a lower range. Previously, you've had that many new models out over the years. But is it going to be a G9 Mark II or a G10? I don't really know. But it looks as if it's going to be coming up. Also, I did a thing on the specs, on specifications, a video on specifications. I'm going to have a little chat about that tonight, if I may, as well. But basically, that's what I've got on tonight. And as I say, a little bit about print sizes, which I'll come to shortly. So what have we got tonight? Let's have a little look. Who is Seraphine? Hello. Got out of talk. I've taken the family to Disney World with my wife and enjoying a quiet house. Jason's always last at Disney World. So hello, Trev. Trev's on again. Good to see you, Trevor. I could do with a trip to Disney, actually. I haven't been there for a good few years, not since before lockdowns. The great Vanzini photos. Sounds good. Thanks, Vanzini. Thank you very much for that. Walmir Bazzato, Don't know if I got the name right, but good to see you online. Hello, sis. Bev Thorogood. Hello, sister. How are you doing? I need to go down and see my sister sometime because she's gone on to use a Nikon for her video work, and I had a good look at her camera last time I was down there when I visited Lincoln and met up with the family there. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to scrounge your camera off you sometime, Bev, and have a good look at it. It looks really, really, really good. And I also want to see what you're doing about those mics, because you've got the DJI mics, and they look really interesting as well. So G9, as I say, G9 noise. I got round that problem, but that's sort of reinvigorated my interest in the G9. I've taken it out a few times since I've got it here, and also because I bought myself a gimbal. I spent a little bit of money because it was one of those Prime days from a certain large retailer who do online stuff. I won't say the name, but they're very much like a large river. And I bought myself a Weeble S, which is huge, but this is a compact gimbal, I've been assured. Weighs about £1. Really impressed with it, actually. I've done a couple of bits and pieces. I've got a video to come up in a couple of weeks for you where I've taken the gimbal out for the first time, and it quite happily will sit the G9 on top, and it will also take the G9 and EM1 Mark II, although I haven't tried the EM1 Mark II properly yet. But for all of these people who've been saying about how shaky my videos are, hopefully less so. But it's to a degree defeats the object of Micro Four Thirds because it makes such a big rig. But fantastic, really, really impressive piece of kit. And I'm getting more and more into doing video work. I know my videos aren't particularly good. I'm not a huge videographer, but I'd like to get into it a little bit more. And Micro Four Thirds format cameras really are fantastic for doing that. But this one will take I think it's rated up to a Canon 5D Mark IV with the 24-70 f2.8 lens. So that's a heavy rig, and if it can handle that, well, then that's great. Who else do we have here? Magwill, message retracted. Ooh, I wonder what that was. You've got my curiosity going now, Magwill. Stephen Long, hello Stephen, how are you? Magwill, hello from Linköping, Sweden. Again, I don't know how to pronounce it. If I ever make poor pronunciation on this channel, please just bear with me. I'm fascinated by the different ways of pronouncing things. I'm a Geordie from the northeast of English, so I have to sort of try and suss out how to put it into English, let alone Geordie first, and then go on to that. Bev, how easy to balance? I'm actually really impressed with how easy it is to balance this thing. There's locks on this, so you can lock the different axes. Very, very easy. And there's a little, although I haven't got it in here at the moment, there's a little tripod which it sits on. And once you've got the plate and things on the camera properly, I found it very easy to oh no, the tripod's on the back, beg your pardon. I'll just undo this tripod from there because it makes an extra handle on the back. And that fits onto the bottom, like that. So once you put it on the tripod, put the camera on. The only modification I've done, I don't like, there's a quick release on this, which I really don't like the quick release. I find it cumbersome. So I put a Manfrotto type release onto this, and a standard Manfrotto base onto it. So now I can just take the camera on and off, no problem. I don't have to rebalance it every time unless I change lens or anything. But it probably takes me, because I'm not very adept at it, from putting the camera on and having nothing in balance, about a minute and a half to balance it up. When I've got it reasonably set, it's taken me a few seconds. And the good thing is, once you get it near enough right, there's an auto mode little screen on there. You hit the auto mode and you can see the camera wobbling away, and it settles itself and centers itself. So it's no problem whatsoever to balance. Let's see, who surfing had such bad luck with multiple G9 cameras from bad boards draining batteries and the dial wheels going bad. I won't be getting a G9 replacement. That's interesting. They wanted $500 to replace the front dial wheel. I must admit, I've been very lucky. Apart from that little glitch that I've had, I've been very lucky on my G9. I know Paul, my colleague Paul Murray, he has a G9 and he's never impressed with the sharpness of it. He does a lot of nature photography, birds and things, and he's actually got a Sony bridge camera with a 1-inch sensor, so it shouldn't be as good in theory.
but he gets far sharper photographs out of that. And the lens he's usually using is the 100 to 400 Lumix, the Leica Lumix lens, which I reviewed a little while ago, and it's absolutely superb. So he's not 100% convinced on the G9 either, although he has one, and his cameras are immaculate. But it's interesting to hear what you said about things failing on them. Maybe I've just been lucky on this one, I don't know. But that's a bit worrying when you get that. James Boyer, hello from Zurich, Switzerland. Hello, Switzerland. I adore the G9 for photos, not doing much video yet. Yeah, the G9, I mean, once I got that little thing sorted, it's been fantastic. And I really am interested to see what the G9 Mark II, I'm going to refer to it as a G9 Mark II, irrespective of what it finally comes out as. You'll know what I'm on about. But if my predictions are right about having the phase detect and the 24 megapixel sensor and all those sort of things, then I think it's going to be quite a cracking camera. If they do bring it out, I hope they don't change the form factor much. I do like the way that this sits in the hand. I love it's a big camera for a Micro Four Thirds, but the advantage we have is the smaller weight and size of lenses. But I do find it really fits in the hand well. And now that I've started wearing glasses more, the eyepiece on the back, the fact that you can adjust the zoom ratio on it, I just find it's absolutely fantastic for there. Overall, I think I enjoy using the Olympus camera more, though. That's going to start some controversy off. But the Olympus doesn't quite feel as good in hand. There's not much to it. But I think my AM1 Mark II, still, I get a bigger kick out of using that one. I don't know what it is, but I can't knock this. It's been absolutely superb for me. And it's as long as it doesn't go faulty, then great. Anita Cooper, hello from Kentucky in the US. Hello in Kentucky, how are you doing? Glad to make a live. Been binge watching some of your great vids. Love the photo walks. Keep them coming. I shall be doing more photo walks. I'm starting to enjoy doing those myself. I still do some of the chats and things, especially in the UK when it's been pouring down the rain. We're supposed to have had the hottest temperatures ever recorded. Not around Cumbria we haven't. It's been absolutely pouring down for a couple of weeks. So quite often it's a case of doing the sort of chats on that. Plus I tend to do my little newsy bits on there. But I'm getting out to more and more places. We've got some trips down to Cornwall in the extreme southwest of England, planned for later on the year, and Dorset and Devon. So hopefully bring you some from that. Maybe even Cheshire. So Trev, I might be coming to see you then. So we've got a whole load of things that I want to do. And that's part of the reason I bought that gimbal, because I do quite like doing the photo walks, but I do want a little bit better quality on that. The photo walks are a bit strange because they're not really about cameras as such. They're more about the place. So I'm pleased you do like them. I'm enjoying doing some of those walks, and I'm enjoying getting out, seeing the different places myself. So yes, there'll certainly be some more of those. Review wise, I'm not doing a huge amount of reviews. The reviews get the biggest. They get the biggest views of all my videos, but I'm not a great one for doing reviews, and that pretty much is what I was saying about the specs. I don't know if you saw the video I put out yesterday about specifications, but sometimes I just get so despondent going through specifications and trying to look at why one camera is better than another one, or one lens is better than another one. And to a large extent, it seems to miss the point for me. That's about going out and enjoying taking photos. Again, let me know if that's how you feel or not. Great Vanzini, they must have changed something on the name. My G7 has been great. Yeah, I noticed the G7's still on sale. There's a reviewer I was just watching. I'm going to get my iPad and see who it was. My brain is going. I'm trying to remember who some of these people are, and I was just watching a video a couple of minutes ago. I'll just come onto that and go into my library, and what was his name? I'll just bring myself onto this, because I've really got into this channel. Is an American guy, obviously from sort of California, Marcus Pix. He's a real character. If you haven't seen Marcus Pix, real character, and he loves his real compact cameras and compact flashes and things. And he was just doing I saw a video which he'd done on the G7, and I wasn't aware the G7 was still in production, but obviously it is. But yeah, photo walks, certainly keep on doing them. Cameras and things, I say the G7 Great Vanzini, yeah, I think they're great. They're a tiny little light camera and they're really, really good. And in the UK with the 14 to 42 kit lens, you're getting them for £499 new, £499 new. Again, probably similar sort of price in the States, about $500 in the States for an excellent camera. 16 megapixel, doesn't have IBIS either though, but is a fantastic little camera which is really, really effective at giving you some professional quality shots. Bev, I don't think you'd like my Nikon Z30. Very much a video vlogging camera. Yeah, that's the reason I've been looking into it, because if you remember, I'm using my G100 on that. Not a stills camera and no eye viewfinder, no EVF. That's the off-putting thing for me, the lack of EVF. I've been going out with a GX1 recently, which doesn't have an EVF, and I do miss it. Indian Mastiff, still use my trusted EM1 Mark 1 and still going strong. Yep, mine's the same, sitting through next door. I dread to have a look at the shutter count on it, to tell you the truth. It's been halfway around the world with me. And yeah, it's 16 megapixel, but you know my views on megapixel counts does not mean a huge great deal. But in some ways I really like it. Maybe because the sensor isn't as big a pixel count, so you got bigger pixels themselves, bigger area of pixels. I just find the colours to be fantastic on it. I find the contrast really good on it. The whole colour science on the EM1. Forget about it for video, it's a waste of time. But as a stills camera, I think it's absolutely superb. And it's a little bit smaller than the EM1 Mark II, and certainly smaller than the G9. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that one, Indian Mastiff. I think it's great. Stephen Long. My chat's that side, by the way, and occasionally I'll keep on having the drink. And I apologise. I was going to have a nice green screen here tonight, with a nice fancy sort of studio background. And I've got my green curtain at the back, and realised that my yellow polo shirt, I was effectively the studio. It was wide enough on that. And the trouble is, I wanted the green screen because it looks like there's a bomb gone off in the background here, which is normal for me. It's untidy is not the word for it. Stephen Long had a choice between the G9 and the Olympus EM1 Mark II. Decided to get the EM1 Mark II in the end. I did the opposite. Because the EM1 Mark II was still more expensive, and there was a deal on the G9 when I bought that. I bought that brand new. So I got the battery grip and the G9 for £799 brand new from a main dealer. I couldn't turn that down when you consider the M1 Mark II at the time was about £1,200 or £1,300. But I bought a used EM1 Mark II, and yeah, you've seen my views on it in the past. Very, very close on the two of them. Jonathan Schick, recently bought my G9 and love the handling and ergonomics. Totally with you on that one. Using it in anger for the first time tomorrow for some theatre rehearsal shots. I think you'll enjoy it. I really do think you'll enjoy it. It's very, very stable in the hand. That's the beauty of that camera. Being a little bit bigger, it is very, very stable. What I would suggest is find out what the lighting's like and go and do some test shots before people get in there. It's just to get yourself right on it. There's an awful lot in those menus, and there's an awful lot to get your head around. So if you haven't used it much, then give yourself a little bit of leeway, because if you do, I'm sure you'll thoroughly enjoy it. Griff Vanzini again. Marcus has great vids. He does, doesn't he? I only just came across him a month or two back. I hadn't seen his videos at all. He's got such a character and such personality, and he doesn't go in the way that most of the mainstream camera reviewers and equipment reviewers go. I think he comes from a film background. I'm sure he comes from some sort of professional film background on there, but I just like his style. Speaking of liking people's styles, I did a little appearance. I put a comment onto one of Robin Wong's videos the other day. If you haven't seen Robin Wong, check him out, seriously. And I was quite humbled by it, because I just put a little hello sort of thing, and he came back, said some really nice things about my channel, but he knew me by my first name, so he's obviously been watching the videos, watching the channel. And there was him and Rob Trekon, two people I have got so much admiration for in their videos. because they are both real enthusiastic people about their photography, real genuinely enthusiastic presenters who seem to be speaking from the heart for me. So to both of those, if you do actually see this at some point, I really was humbled that both of you said some nice things. Robin on the video, and Rob on the chat as well. You've got no idea how good that made me feel. Thank you very much, and thank you for watching the videos in the past. Both Robin and Rob Trek, Robin Wong and Rob Trek, go and check the videos out because they are unbelievably good people. Anita Cooper, hello Anita. I've got the G7, love it. Came with a 14-42, which works great as a mid-grade beginner camera. I couldn't agree more with you. First time I came across a G7, I was doing some of the videos on Hadrian's Wall, and on the Hadrian's Wall walks, and there was a couple I met who had a G7, and I just let me use it for 5 minutes. I was in love with it. It's tiny. It really is a small, neat, light camera. And that little 14-42, not my favourite lens, I must admit, but it does the job extremely well for what it is. And it does what it says on the tin, really. It's a good little basic 14-42mm lens, and it takes really good shots. It really does. That I actually bought my GX1 when I bought my EM5 Mark 1, and I bought the GX1 just because it had that 14-42 lens on, because I needed a lens just to get into Micro Four Thirds. So it was a very formative lens for me. Unfortunately, mine got damaged, so I don't have that one anymore. But it was a shame, because it's a great lens. Even if you get some fancier ones, it's a great lens just to keep in your kit bag, and it does just what you need it to do. Indian asked, this smaller pixel good for battery life and memory cards? Yeah, absolutely. It's, well, smaller pixel count. I'm not sure that it's. I would think that a lesser pixel count would probably do it, but I don't know. I'm not getting into that because you probably know better than I do. What that does, though, it brings me on to a discussion I had with a colleague of mine a couple of days ago, which really got me. And I've seen this on some of the videos I've done, on some of the comments over the time, and it came into it about how you can't use Micro Four Thirds to print big. The format doesn't allow you to print big. Well, I can't see what the problem is on that. You can the format will change things like the dynamic range, because you've got a smaller pixel land to be able to get that information on. But if you think of a 20 megapixel camera, this is my take on it. If you think about a 20 megapixel camera, you've got 20 million dots across it there. If you blow that up to a huge, great big thing, you've still got 20 million dots, which you've got to be able to put onto that thing. The dots are just bigger as you go zoom out. A larger format camera with 20 megapixels is still just got 20 million dots. It's got to be the same resolution. So I can't really see where the problem is between Micro Four Thirds and full frame, which was the argument I was having with this guy. And I've seen it expressed a few times. Yes, if you've got more megapixels, you're going to get better resolution on the final print. But even then, you tend to, on most prints, you're tending to take it down to, what, 300 dots per inch or something like that. It changes on whatever size you're doing. But I've had some 4 foot by 3 foot prints from Micro Four Thirds, which have been absolutely superb. Again, let me know what you think, because I can't see why. I can't see the difference between a 20 megapixel 1-inch sensor and a 20 megapixel medium format sensor insofar as the resolution or the print size you can actually get from that. Let me know what you think. Bev, you obviously love Micro Four Thirds. I do. But what are your thoughts on APS-C? It's another format. Somewhere in there's a Canon 7D, which is an APS-C camera. Superb. In theory, you should get slightly more dynamic range from an APS-C camera because it's a bigger sensor. Again, if it's a 20 megapixel sensor on APS-C and a 20 megapixel sensor on Micro Four Thirds, you've still got 20 megapixels. But because the sensor is bigger, each pixel should have a slightly larger surface area. So in theory, you should get capture that information a bit better. And that's going to affect your dynamic range. APS-C, the biggest problem with APS-C and full frame for me personally, is the fact that there's a physical restriction in the lens size. To be able to fill that sensor, that larger sensor, you need bigger glass. It's as simple as that. And because you've got that bigger glass, the whole system becomes bigger. Yes, you could say that APS-C will give you a shallower depth of field at the same focal length, because it's not a straightforward thing. You don't actually have less depth of field on Micro Four Thirds. It's less depth of field at that focal length at that f-stop. So in theory, at the same focal length, at the same f-stop, an APS sensor should give you a shallower depth of field. However, if you're after something which is requiring a large depth of field, for instance, if you're doing landscapes or something, then it's no advantage going APS-C on depth of field. There's swings and roundabouts for them all, but they make such a big thing on a lot of the videos about these big differences between them. And when I put out that about trying full frame, going back to full frame video the other day, there was all sorts of things quoted, but in actual fact there's not a great amount of difference between cameras. And if I want to get a Micro Four Thirds camera to give me a really shallow depth of field, then I use some of the skills as a photographer as well as the limitations of the camera to do that. You know, if I'm shooting something, if I want a slightly shallower depth of field, I'll maybe use a little bit more of a zoom lens, and I'll get in closer to, you know, it's closer to the subject, or separate the subject further away distance-wise from the background. There's all sorts of ways you can do it, and most of those are nothing to do with the camera, they're to do with photographic skills. So I love APS-C. It's just a little bit large for what I'm after. Some of the APS-C cameras, what have we got? The Fuji cameras, the XT series cameras, which are APS-C, absolutely knockout, really are knockout. So nothing against any of the other formats. They're just formats, and it's how you deal with them. My photo journey. Really enjoyed your videos. Thank you very much. They're addictive and quirky at times. I'm quite happy being called quirky, yeah. Addictive, well, that's an interesting thing. Thank you for saying that. I've an AM1 Mark II for about 4 years and love it. Yeah, there's not much to say bad against things like the AM1 Mark II, Mark III, or the AM5s. They do what you want them to do. All these, there's no real bad cameras now. There really isn't much in the way of bad cameras and bad gear. There are some which aren't quite as good as others, but I've come across so few things which are bad. And again, that comes into the review videos I do. If everything's so good, how do you make something interesting topic about it? But the only thing I've had which I really didn't like recently was a 7 Artisans 25mm lens, and even then it wasn't a bad lens. There was a couple of things I wasn't keen on, but it wasn't really a bad lens. I haven't seen a bad product for a long time, unless, like the great Vanzini was saying, you have things which break on it, and that's different. That's a reliability issue. Hi, Linda Marks. Hi, Linda. Hi, I love my G5. If only that or the G7 had IBIS. Yeah, that's the problem. But again, on something like the G7 or the G5, if you had IBIS on it, then they would become considerably heavier and bigger too. So you've got to have somewhere some way of putting that mechanism into there. It is a physical moving mechanism. So you've got that, and there's a certain amount of that you could be saying about reliability as well. It's more chance of unreliability because there's more moving parts in there. So I don't know. When I first started with photography, we didn't have image stabilization, either in lenses or in cameras. We didn't have super fast ISOs because we're using film, and if you're using slide film rather than negative film, sometimes you're limited down to sort of or ASA as it was, an ISO 25 or 64, which is way below the base ISO in any of the Micro Four Thirds cameras I've got. Yet we still managed to get some fantastic shots. If I was going for a fast film in those days, I'd be going for a 400. Well, 400 as an ISO now is considered to be a very slow speed. But even without image stabilization, we would learn some techniques. I did a video a couple of years ago about using a monopod, I love using monopods because you can sort of put the camera onto it. You can brace yourself against the wall with it. It gives you an extension. Even if you're using it just, a short monopod, it doesn't have to be on the ground, but you can use it as an extension. You can brace yourself against a wall or against a fence and, actually sandwich a monopod with a camera on between the two of you and take some really good shots. A lot of it's technique, so I wouldn't worry too much if you haven't got IBIS. It is nice to have, and it does get you some of the shots that you couldn't do. But I don't believe it's a be-all and end-all. And as I say, the G7 is just fantastic, even without it. Great Vanzini photos. I rarely print more than 8x10, so I'm good with 16 megapixels. Yeah, I tend to... Most of the prints I do, I don't go beyond about 20 by 16, which for most houses actually is quite a big print. I do enjoy printing about that size, but I've never had a problem with 16 megapixels even on them. And the other thing is as well, unless you're pixel peeping, you don't stand 6 inches away from a photo that size to have a look at it. You'll stand a reasonable distance away, and as soon as you do that, you don't see all the individual pixels. It's like when I have these huge, great big these advertising hoardings, which are massive, great big things at the roadside. I know a lot of them are going digital now, but for a long time, you used to get the guy would paste them up and put them up on the hoardings. And if you actually went up close to them, you could see the dots, individual dots, with huge gaps between them. And I think there's somewhere around about, it's somewhere around about 90 dots per inch or something like that. But as soon as you're on the road, they become vibrant, full colour posters, and you don't see the individual dots at all. So I think we do tend to, with prints especially, get a little bit over the top. We're trying to get in and see the detail. Okay, we've got 40 viewers online. I'm going to have a quick drink. Fresh orange. Unfortunately, no vodka or gin in it, but never mind. Anthony, would anybody like to see an all-new OM2 with 26 megapixels of resolution? Oh, that's an interesting one. Yes, and yes, certainly from my point of view, but it wouldn't be a be-all and end-all if it never happened for me. I think the biggest problem with Micro Four Thirds for megapixel count is the fact we're getting left behind by the rest of the market, the full frame and the APS-C, who are getting into sort of 50, 60, 80 megapixel sensors on theirs. Whether it's good or bad, I'm not going to say. Remember, the bigger megapixel count, you need much better quality lenses to be able to make use of them. Personally, I'm dead comfortable. Even if the G9 Mark II comes out with a 24 megapixel, I'm actually comfortable with 16 or 20. However, I do think the market needs to advance that megapixel count just to stay competitive. Insofar as an EM2, I'm not sure what you put onto it. I remember when I had the original EM1, the film camera. I think Trev, you had an EM2, which I played with at one point. I'm sure you had an EM2. The EM2 took over from a fully manual camera and had auto modes and things. That was a big jump. I'm not sure what you do for a big jump between a current OM1 and a new OM2. Interesting thought. Thanks very much. That's a really good topic of conversation, Anthony. Bev, it was price for me. Full frame was at the budget. Yeah. I think there's nothing wrong with APS-C, as I say, price-wise. Trev, easy to build backgrounds in post-processing these days. It is, but it always seems to have a somewhat false look to it to me. Maybe it's the way I do it. Who's surfing? Oh man, your live stream has gone to 2 commercials. Oh, has it got commercials on? I do apologise. As far as I was aware, I'd switch commercials off. So if there's commercials on, I don't know how to switch them off. I'd untick the box for commercials, and certainly unticks the box for midstream commercials. So if that's the case, you get commercials on, I do apologise. I'll double check for next time. I hate midstream commercials. Unfortunately, it's the only way to make money from some of the videos sometimes, but I do hate them. Indian Mastiff, what filters do you use? I've got a cheap Neewer UV filter, an ND32 and a polarizer. I'll be honest, I used to have UV filters on all of my lenses at one point, but they were mainly on for protection. But I've never yet broken one. I had one really which has saved the camera, so I took them off on the thinking of more glass. You know, you've got a front plate and a back front plane and a back plane on that filter, which are able to refract and reflect light. They've got to have some sort of detrimental effect, even if it's so negligible you don't notice it. So I just started taking them off. The biggest reason for me to have them on was protection. Polarizers, yeah, I like using polarizing filters. I find them a bit of a pain sometimes, but I prefer circular polarizers. This is quite often I'll use a circular polarizer if I'm doing anything near water. I'll do to get rid of glare. I'll use a circular polarizer to really brighten up skies, to put some of the colour into the skies and to get rid of a greyness on skies. You have to have a little bit of nous about you about which way you're shooting them. You know, don't shoot them straight into the light or against the light. Usually shooting sideways across the light, and also being careful when you're using wide angle lenses with a polarizing filter, because if you do get this wonderful blue sky in one corner, by the time you get the side at the other side, the light is so different, the polarity of the light is different, that it seems to tail off to the grey or whatever. So I do tend to use them with medium to longer lenses rather than wide angles, but I do have some polarizing filters, and they do tend to be specific to certain thread sizes. I don't tend to use the slot-in ones. I did buy some ND filters, but I found I wasn't using them very often, and the trouble with cheap ND filters is they do colour casts. If you look at a colleague of mine, Paul Thompson Photography, another fantastic YouTuber. If you haven't seen him before, check him out. He actually lives around the corner from me, and his actual Trev and I both knew his father, because we were both in the Air Force with his father. And Paul has a fantastic photography channel, goes all over the world with it, and he uses filters, ND filters. He is sponsored by them, but the results he gets are absolutely fantastic. And again, Thomas Heaton's another great one. If you see his videos, another great photographer that I watch online, who uses ND filters an awful lot for his landscape photography. So check those two out for filters. I tend not to use ND filters. It's not the sort of photography I do often enough to warrant spending that much money. And I do think with ND filters you have to spend, you get what you pay for on them. Let's see, Alec, greetings from Enniskillen in Ireland. Hello Alec. With an EM1 Mark II, good to see you online. Good. One of the beauties of this for me, I find it so fascinating that, as I say, I'm just some bloke who takes photographs and talks about cameras and waffles on more than anything else. You know, I don't claim to be a great expert. I'm not a great expert in by any way, shape or form, but I do enjoy my photography. I enjoy what I do, and I just find it totally amazing that I'm sitting in my room up here in the northwest of England, and I'm talking to people in Ireland. I'm talking to people in Kentucky. I think I saw there. I've got them Sweden and Switzerland, and I'm seeing people from all over the world who are sharing an interest in photography. And again, I feel very, very humbled to be at the sort of centre of this discussion. I think it really is. It's quite an honour. So thank you, people. It's lovely to see people from all over the world getting together on a common subject. Alec M. I would push 400 ASA or ISO, as it is now, to 800 on new M2. Yeah, I would push it a little bit as well, insofar as when I was doing black and white, I used to do my own processing, and you could, if you were clever, you could push a film quite a bit. But I remember it starts getting grainy at about 1,000 ASA films when Kodak first brought the Kodak Color Gold 1000 out. I remember how grainy that was. It was incredibly grainy, but it was a big movement in fast film. But yeah, certainly pushing a 400 to 800, I would do that on my OM1. The other thing that I used to do on that again was use black and white film more than anything else on that, because I found that the black and white film you could really play around with, manipulate it. Long time ago is that. Dick Van Campen, just want to say, love your videos and expanding stuff. It depends what you're on about the expanding stuff. It's probably the stomach which is expanding, unfortunately. Yeah, thank you very much. That's nice to hear. Thank you for the compliment. Trev, OM2N, thought it was. Yes, it was yours that I played around with because I had the OM1 in. I always used to forget to put the N on the end of it. Alec M, I forgot the N, Trevor. Dick Van Campen, I'm casting to TV. No, it's here. All right. Right. It's casting to TV. Okay. I tend to watch most of my videos on TV, most of my YouTube on TV. Anita Cooper, I enjoy Thomas Heaton's, definitely agree. Also Henry Turner, he's another one from the northwest of England. I think he shoots Nikon, if I'm not mistaken, Henry Turner. But again, another really, really good personality who comes across, and again, enthusiastic. He's got a good little teaching style as Henry. I like the way that he puts some of his stuff across. There's so many really, really good photographers. There's another Asian guy, Robin W, who I watch. I like his style. James Popsis, although James seems to have gone away from the Micro Four Thirds sort of stuff, although he did get his Leica G9 out. That really threw me, a Leica G9. I'm presuming it's because I think it was a one that was when he was an ambassador, a Lumix ambassador. But I think the Leica G9, I've never seen one except his. But again, I love his personality. The ones I tend to watch most of all are the ones who have an enthusiasm and a personality rather than just wanting to sell it, if you know what I mean. You've got the Matty Solantos and the what's his name, Forsgaard. I can't remember his surname. My apologies to Mr. Forsgaard. But again, on the Olympus side, really, really good. They seem to be, although they've had these sort of ambassadorships, there still seem to be enthusiastic people about it, which I love. Stuart Riley, for video I do use ND filters. I live in KC, Missouri. Where's KC? What's KC? You'll have to expand on what KC is for me, because I'm not sure. Expand on what KC is. But yes, I live in Missouri. Now, for some reason, I just got this thing come up on my chat, which I can't get rid of. There we are. Yeah, let me know what KC is. Where are we? I've got lost. Rick Alexander. Late but finally made it. You're welcome. Doesn't matter what time you come here, so long as you come is what I'm happy with. So, yeah. Thanks again for the friendly advice in the videos. As I say, I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be an expert, but I do try and put some of the experience I have had forward. So if it does help you, I'm over the moon. I really am over the moon. So thank you. Linda Marks. I'm lagging a bit behind on the stream. Yeah, so am I, and I'm running it. Yeah, the G5, G7 were the ideal size for me. Oh, yes, I sort of put the comment earlier on. My two favourite lenses have no stabilization. I now have the GX7. Yeah, GX7's a good little camera. I borrowed Paul Murray's and did a sort of retrospective review on that. Tiny little camera, much smaller than my GX8. But again, the problem with that is it doesn't... does that have IBIS? I can't remember. I don't think it does. But a great little camera all the same. And again, from Linda, you're right, I should work on my technique. By the way, still the G5, but the mechanical shutter broke. Yeah, that's a problem when you get at the older cameras. When something like the shutter breaks, they're just not worthwhile fixing. I have a problem on one of my cameras at the moment, and basically I've had a price to get it fixed. It's working, but it has an issue now and again, and to get it fixed is more than the price of the camera's worth, more than the price of going out and getting a used camera from one of the dealers or from the mail order places. And I don't want to get rid of this camera while it's still working, so at the moment I'm just sort of hanging on. If I get the error, I do I do an electronics engineer fix on it, which is a sharp slap on the side, and it seems to put the circuit board. It's a loose connection, but it's just not worth fixing, unfortunately. My lighting looks good. Really? Thanks, Bev. What are you using? This is the height of sophistication, my lighting. It's taken a huge investment to get it right. I put thousands and thousands of nothing in. I've got a 25 watt work light from one of the hardware stores. You know, little ones that you can just put on. It's an LED type one. There used to be the 500 watt halogen type, but this is about 25 watts, and it's sitting on I've got a bench over there, and it's sort of pointing down. So yeah, it's literally no lighting whatsoever. I think it cost me about £25, and it's plugged in, and it's just a floodlight. So thank you very much for the compliments on the light. I think it's atrocious, but I really Kansas City, totally obvious. My apologies. Totally obvious. Yes. Thank you for welcome from Kansas City. Yeah. Stuart Riley. Hello, Stuart. Stuart's one of my patrons. Good to see you online here. Thank you for being a patron, first of all. And thank you for your comments. I got Stuart, you do videos. You do the sunscape, the sun videos. If have a look at Stuart before his thing disappears up. Click on the Stuart. I'm sure that's you. Is it Stuart who does them? Let me know, because I might be getting my things wrong. But certainly Stuart's one of my patrons, and it's really good to see you on here. I just got a Lumix G95. Good small camera. Disagree. Excellent small camera. That's better. It really is a good little camera, the G95. Not far short of the G9. So I wouldn't really put it as a good one. I'd put it as an excellent camera. And quite a bit less expensive than the G9. The biggest difference on it is, for me, is it doesn't have the little screen on the top. The G9 has this little screen on the top. And when I got this, I thought, oh great, because all my full frame and APS-C Canons always had the screen up there, and I miss it. Do you know, I never use it. I never look at that screen, or very, very rarely. There's a little light you can put onto it. If I can get it switched on, if there's any battery in it. Yeah, there's a little amber. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Light which comes on and stays on for such a short space of time that it makes it almost a waste of time. So yeah, the G95, not much different. The G9, it doesn't have the screen, but you don't need it. And I think it's an excellent camera, Stuart, really do. Peter Forsgod, thank you very much, Great Vanzini. Yes, Matty Salanto and Peter Forsgod. Rick Alexander, can I ask you a silly question? No question is a silly question. You might not get a sensible answer, but the question won't be silly. Do you worry about sensor dirt? It's something I'm really feeling. I had a discussion with Paul Murray about sensor dirt a couple of weeks ago, because he borrowed my EM1 Mark II, and the sensor had a bit of dirt on it. I am terrified of cleaning my own sensor. I'm totally chicken to clean my own sensor. So I take it into my local shop, which Wilkinson's. Other shops are available, but I do take it down there and get them to do it. It costs about 30 quid or something like that to get done. I take them down every so often. Paul cleans his sensors. He cleaned the sensor on my OM1, my EM1 Mark II. But I'm a little bit chicken to do it. I don't believe there's any big problems on it. But no, but I don't really get much problem with it either. I'm very, very careful. When I take a lens off a camera, I tend to have my next lens there ready. The lens will come off. I tend to keep it down so things don't fall in with gravity. I'll take it off and put the next lens straight onto it. So very, very rarely without a lens on the camera. And most of the Pro range cameras, the G9s, the EM1s, EM5s, they're supposed to have a certain amount of weather and dust sealing. So in theory, you shouldn't get too much into there, but it does after a while. But no, I've always chickened out of it. What about everybody else? Do you do your own sensors? All right, but certainly not a silly question. Absolutely not. Robert Avery. Hi, Robert. Thanks for your very helpful and informative videos. You're welcome. I have a Lumix G9. Love it. And I've just purchased a used GX8. Smart man. Good choice. I love the GX8. With similar sensor. Do you think applying ETTR would help to reduce noise? I don't know. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't see why it should, because the noise is coming from amplifying the signal from the sensor through the processing more than anything else. So I would say it shouldn't. I can't think why it would. I think it shouldn't have an issue at all. But insofar as the camera is GX8, perfect. Good little club to be part of, the GX8 club. I should start a GX8 club online, shouldn't I? Just for us GX8 owners. They're a hidden gem. They really are. If you haven't tried a GX8, they have a little couple of faults in them, but they are really good. They call it engineering slap impact adjustment. Yes, yeah. It takes you back to the old days, doesn't it, Bev? With when you had old Valve TVs. When I know you're a bit younger than I am, sis, but you can still remember when we had the TVs as a kid, and you'd always get something go wrong, and a little bit of go wrong, and give them a bit of a slap on the side of the TV set, and suddenly the picture would come back or go off altogether, which happened once or twice. Yes, solar astronomy, Stuart. Yeah, if you don't get if you don't do anything else from this, click on Stuart's picture at the side on the chat there. Go and see his videos. They're really interesting. They're very narrow field, if you like. It's a specific sort of type of photography, but really interesting videos. And if you've never seen them, just go and check his channel out, because you'll be stunned by some of the images he's got from there. And while you're there, give him a like and subscribe, because he's got some good stuff. H-Panel 2010, love your videos. Also love my Lumix G85. G85 I've used once. I used a G85 once, and again a little bit like the G95. Now, is it G85 or G80? Whichever one we have in the UK, because it's different between the markets, the G80 and G85, I think. But again, they're just good cameras. You know, as I said before, the G7 is a fantastic camera, still on sale, and a fantastic camera. And the G80, 85, 90, 95, up to the G9, they're all good cameras in themselves. They're all a bit of a move forward. So there's not a bad one amongst them. It just may not have some of the whistles and bells of the next model above them. Stuart, you do clean your sensor, but sparingly. Brave man, brave man. Olympus cameras clean the sensor when you switch off. Both the Olympus and most of the Lumix ones do as well. They do a sort of a vibration to clean them, but you still get some. There are some things which you'll get tree sap. If you get any sort of tree sap, because it's sticky, even the vibration won't get it off. So if you get the tiny little dust specks from tree sap or plant sort of sap, if that gets onto your sensor, it needs cleaned off properly, because it'll just stick. It doesn't matter what you do. And some of the dust that you get, especially if it's got electrical charging, some sort of electrical charge through static or whatever, that can get onto your sensor as well. So yeah, the stuff which the self-cleaning won't get rid of, unfortunately. Jonathan Shake, happily clean my sensors. Mostly a rocket blower does the job. Yeah, I do tend to use a blower on mine. I did try. I've got some tins of it somewhere up here. I did try some compressed air, but what I did find is, because the compressed air, it came out and would actually almost create a frosty surface on it, because of the change in pressure, because it's pressurized. So I stopped doing that. But the little blower that you can get, absolutely superb. Visible dust swabs very occasionally with a careful, steady hand. I find full frame cameras much more susceptible to dust than M43. Yes, I must admit I did get more problems when I was shooting full frame on my 1D2 and 1D3. And maybe it's just because there's a bigger opening for it to get to. We got the opening to get on a sensor is very small in comparison to them. So maybe it's a bigger area to hit. Great Vanzini, the laying on the hands for electric. Good slam. Yes. Bev, sorry, I need to go record my next YouTube. Oh, she's doing her next YouTube video. Best luck with that one, Bev. Your live is my current procrastination tool. of choice. Yeah, enjoy doing your video. If you haven't checked out my sister's channels as well, again they tend to be if I have any watchers on here, Bev did an awful lot with menopause in the workplace. She really is something of a subject expert on that, UK wise. So if you get the chance, Bev's got 2 or 3 channels. Make sure you get the right one. But she's done some great work on that, some great videos, and she's an incredible teacher when it comes to putting the subject across. So because remember, us blokes also need to understand these things. Most of us have partners who where the menopause plays a part in their lives. It's worth checking out her channel, but also she's doing other teaching things as well. She's done really, really well. So check out her channels if you can. Great Mancini, a lot of the agricultural dust around me in the summer months. Yeah, that's big problem. I've got the worst of both worlds. Excuse me, I'm going to cough. I've got the worst of both worlds because I'm in an agricultural area, but we've got an awful lot of beaches and things around the place as well where I go. So you get sand and dust, which is a real pain on sensors. But also, as I say, the agricultural sort of stuff, especially when it comes to harvest time. So, quick. Yep, canned air is a no-no, definitely. I'll agree with that. Which is why the tins are up there and haven't been touched. I was advised they're actually tins which are there for cameras. They were meant to be for cameras. But I used it once and I thought this is just not right. Luckily I used it on an old camera, but I personally don't use them. I know some people do. I just don't like it. And I also think there's too much force coming out of it. So anything being in there, instead of being gently blown away, it's been forced into the back of the camera. Linda, GX7 does not have stabilization. I didn't think it did. It does have stabilization. Right, it does have stabilization. Very first one for Panasonic. I probably said that in the video. I'm going a bit senile. Not as good as later iterations, but fine by me. That's the one. I've got a feeling that the one in GX7 is a 3-axis. I've got a feeling that may be a 3-axis stabilization as opposed to the sort of 5-axis. Like that does sort of remind me of when I did the video. The problem with doing so many videos of so much gear is it melds together in your mind, and you think to yourself, hang on, what's that to do with this camera or that camera, and what's this to do with that lens? And again, like I was saying about specifications, there's so many specifications come along. It's just it almost blows you over. And I found that hard work, when you're trying to remember all these things. I made a note on the specs. I did this video yesterday about specifications, and basically it doesn't make you a better photographer by knowing all these specs, and some of the specs are a bit of a waste of space. One of the things I found about specifications, whether it's in cameras or hi-fi or musical instruments or whatever it is, as a beginner in the field, it makes such a confusing world. We've got these specifications, and it's almost like a special language. You've got to be in our little club. You've got to be in our club to know what I'm on about, because we're the clever ones. So we'll tell you all our fancy specifications, and we'll let you know if it's meant to be a high number or a low number, but we'll not tell you what the significance of it is. And it almost feels like that sometimes. So I'm not a huge one for the specs, but sometimes the specs are important and useful. And then they sort of get mingled up. So yeah, I do seem to remember when I did that video, I did say something about the IBIS in it. Where are we? Linda was the last one who was surfing. When I got onto the OM5 to replace my G9, I found myself using the handheld high-res mode daily. Interesting. That's interesting. It's something I play with very, very rarely. The difference between my EM5 Mark III and the OM5 are quite significant. Yeah. From an outside perspective, there doesn't seem to be. So that's an interesting comment that you just made on that. Really, it does surprise me, because I haven't heard a huge amount of feedback from that. I'm just going to try bringing something up as I'm talking, actually, on that, because I've got a few little notes. where am I? There we are. Let's press up on there. But no, certainly the OM5 is a cracking camera. I give it a bit of a bad press, but not the camera itself. I just give the way that the marketed it a bad press. I really felt that was I didn't like the way that they marketed it at all. I just thought it was very poorly done. But the camera itself, you can't knock it. I did a review with Trev Fillingham's AM5 Mark III just before Christmas, and I absolutely adored that camera. I really did. But the OM5 didn't seem to come and shout itself as being a big jump, and maybe it's a little bit unfair. Maybe we've been very unfair on the OM5, because I don't think that OMDS really marketed it in a way that made it super attractive. So I'd love to know more about that, actually, about the differences you do find, because that to me does interest me. Drop me an email if you would, who is Seraphim, because I'd like to know a little bit more about your views on that. Very interesting. Thank you. Oh, it's no good to say my sister about the menopause stuff. It's all gone. She actually reverted the channel. Ah, that's right. Mainly business stuff now. Still worth watching her stuff, though. She's still very, very good. Deleted, I mean. Yes, you did tell me that when we met up in Lincoln. I thought you maybe got it back. Yeah, it's a shame, because she did an awful lot on the menopause stuff, which did get sort of deleted because of the vagaries of how YouTube works. But yeah, if you get the chance to just say her stuff, she's still very good and an incredible teacher. Robert Avery, thanks for your advice for EATTR. Once got charged £70 for a G9, £70 for a sensor clean, and it came back with noticeable dust on the sensor, so I cleaned carefully myself using a blown M43 cleaning kit. Wow, it's £70, that's incredible. James Boyer, I got the Nitacore BB2 electronic blower for dusting off film negatives before scanning. All right. And it seems well suited to using on digital sensors as well. Yeah, interesting to find out. As I say, I've just never had the guts to do it. How are we doing time-wise? That's the hour. We've got an hour up. We've had 142 people viewing this, and I'm over the moon. We've still got 37 people online, and I'm really, really pleased for that. Let me know just before we go. I'll stay on for another few minutes, but just drop me a comment. Is this something you want me to carry on doing? Is it something that is informative? What would you like me to do with this live stream? I want to do them about once a month, if possible, because I'm enjoying them. I'm enjoying talking to all you people and reading your comments live. I think one of the big problems for me is when you see some of the comments, when you put a video up and then you sit there and you watch the comments coming in later. It's so difficult sometimes to get the context. There's some comments what I've seen, I think, how dare you say that? And then you suddenly realise what the context of what they were saying it was, and it's actually complimenting you. So I'm finding this quite useful, because there is a little bit more of an interaction on it. Give me some ideas to what subject you would like me to cover in the future times. Thanks, Stuart. Thanks, Robert. And I'll quite happily do those if possibly can. Rick would love to see a live stream. Get courage to ask more newbie questions. I'll say something on that if I can, Rick. I don't know what your level is, but I'm presuming you class yourself as a newbie on this. It doesn't matter. As I said before, there's no such thing as a silly question. I might give some silly answers, but there's no such thing as a silly question. But everybody, it's just come up with an error. Every photographer on this channel, everybody who's taken photographs on this channel was a newbie at some point. They may still be a newbie. I've been taking photographs since I was 6 years old, and I still class myself as a newbie, and I certainly class myself. I have a little bit of imposter syndrome being among some of these photographers. I said about Robin Wong and Rob Trek complimenting me the other day. I was very humbled by that, but I also had a little bit of imposter syndrome on that. I think, I see some of their output and I'm thinking to myself, different league, and they're complimenting me. So never worry about being a newbie. It's the only way to learn. Anita Cooper, yes, it's lovely chatting about photography, especially when you talk about having fun with your shooting. Yeah, we forget about that sometimes. John Allen, many thanks. You're welcome, John. Thank you for coming onto the channel. My photo journey, yes please, well done. Well, I'll try my best, so thank you for the compliment. Great Vanzini, it's been a great stream. Thanks a bunch. Yep, keep it up, thank you. And who is Seraphine? Don't see your email in the description. Ah, right. It's on my main page. However, it is 4 Counties Photography, FOURCOUNTIES photography, one word, at outlook.com. I think. Give me a sec. Now that I'm over 21 in age, yeah, it's hard to believe, I know. Now that I'm over 21 in age, sometimes the brain starts to go. So I'm going to double check my... Isn't it terrible when you have to double check your own email address? And that's... Okay. Yeah, 4 Counties Photography at outlook.com. And that should get through to me on there. Stuart Riley, buying used gear versus new. Yeah, I'll certainly do something on that, although I think a lot of people know my views on that. Magwell, yes, carry on. Thank you, I shall. Mike Thomas, hi from Orlando, Florida. Oh, Mike, did you have to come on and make me jealous? I adore Orlando. Great video as always, and yes, would love to see more of this. See you in Disney World sometime. I can't wait to get out there. Last time I was out in Florida was 2013 for my 25th wedding anniversary. I haven't been since. I adore Florida. One of the nicest memories I have. I'm a Rotarian. You can see the sort of Rotary things. I'm in a Rotary club. And the good thing about Rotary is you can go and visit clubs anywhere. You're welcome to go and visit a club as a member anywhere. And we were staying at downtown Disney. And the Lake Buena Vista Rotary Club is in the next hotel. It was a breakfast club meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning. And one of my unbelievable memories, I was walking along to walk next door in the beautiful Florida sunshine with a set of headphones on, listening to 10cc Feel the Benefit from Deceptive Bends, which is one of my favourite pieces of music. Walking along the sunshine on my holidays, not a care in the world, to go off and meet some new people at this Rotary meeting, and it's one of the most fantastic memories I have, just walking down the street. So thank you. I am jealous, absolutely jealous. So thanks, Mike, and thanks for coming on the line. Oh, you went. Oh, right. Mastiff, cheers. Yeah. Alec M. Yes, once a month. I use a lot of old lenses from my OM2N days with my EM1. Great results. How many on here use their old lens? Thanks, Brian, for this wee chat. I've used a couple of my old OM series lenses with an adapter on the Micro Four Thirds, and they seem to work really well as a manual lens. Stuart Riley, great stream. Great, Brian, thank you very much. Mike Thomas, yeah. So you're just down the road from each other. That's wonderful. Cocoa Beach, Alex. Oh, I'm going to have to cut the stream down now. I'm just going to go and sit in the corner and cry at the thought of not being in Florida. Thank you, everybody who's come on the stream tonight. I really do appreciate it. I shall carry on doing these about once a month. I'll let you know what's happening on them. As I say, if you do want to drop me a line, 4 Counties Photography at outlook.com. And if you drop me a mail of any questions you want to ask or anything like that, I'll start putting I think I'll put this the email address into a couple of my oncoming videos as well, just that you do. I try not to put on all videos so as not be inundated with stuff, but yeah, I'll do that. James Boyer. Oh, it is called Disney Springs now. Yes, that's right. I heard it was called Disney Springs. Yeah. One little thing actually. I know Disney don't like it, but the Rotary clubs, they actually have a Mickey Mouse Rotary Club, you know, the little rotary wheel with the Mickey Mouse ears, which I have and I'm very proud of. So I was gifted by that. So I'm going to knock it on the head. James Boy, I've adapted lots of M-mount manual lenses for MFT cameras. Yep, I think it'd be absolutely superb. Anita, bye. James Boyer, thanks Brian, bye, and I shall say bye to everybody online once again. Thanks for watching, thanks for all the support you give me on my videos. thanks for not having too big a go at some bumbling Geordie who just waffles about enjoying taking photography. And I have a granddaughter. Hello. Would you like to talk to the world? I've got all my. Just come and see. This is my granddaughter. This is. Just come a little bit closer. This is Amber. Can you see? Stand back a bit and you can be able to see. This is Amber, my beautiful granddaughter. So you're in there, and there's people on there from Florida and Maine and all sorts of places. You going to give them a wave and say bye-bye?
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. See you next time.